Now let's move on to the second option of hosting n8n, which is via Docker. Now on my system, again, I'm back onto the documentation page of n8n where we used it to install n8n locally on the machine using the Node package manager, the npm installation. Now what we are going to do in this lesson is we are going to go to the Docker installation process and we are going to install a Docker image or a Docker container on our local machine. This can be used to set up different servers as well. As you can see in the documentation itself, if I click on server setups, it allows you to go through the instructions for setting up a server at Heroku, DigitalOcean. You can use AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, or you can use Docker Compose, which is more or less applicable where Linux installation is there. So if you are using Linux as an operating system, then you need to follow this particular instruction, which is using Docker Compose to install n8n on your Linux machine. I'm not going to cover this Docker Compose method over here. Rather, I'm going to use the Docker desktop version to install n8n as a Docker container on my local MacBook. You can follow the similar instructions for Windows machines as well. So I'm going to go back on the Docker, and at the top you can see that there are some advantages of using the Docker kind of installation, which is more like, as we discussed earlier as well, it is more isolated, more secure installation in nature. Then it is easier to set up your own preferred database. By default, the n8n installation uses the SQLite version of it. Again, it is getting a little technical. You can ignore it if you really don't want to like use the Docker version of it, but the general installation uses the SQLite version. But if you want to use Postgres version, then you have the control to do it in a Docker based installation. Similarly, if you are using different operating system, you want to move your n8n installation in different operating system to avoid incompatibility issues between different configurations of these operating system or tools that you may be using in your local environment. You can use the Docker container of n8n so that your installation of n8n stays isolated from all these incompatibility issues, and hence it helps migrating to new hosts in an easy and quicker manner. Now that you understand some of the advantages, you can see that self-hosting n8n requires some technical knowledge like setting up or configure servers or containers, managing application resources, and scaling. Configuration of n8n is up to you. Securing servers and application, again, it's part of you. If you are going to the cloud version of n8n, all this is managed for you by the cloud platform, which is provided by n8n as a company. So if you're not technically experienced to do all these things, better use the cloud version of n8n. So the first prerequisite of this Docker installation is that you have to install something called Docker Desktop, and this Docker Desktop is only available for Windows and MacBooks. So if you are using Mac operating system or Windows operating system, then only you can continue ahead with this lesson. Otherwise, if you're using the Linux based operating system, then I'm going to make a dedicated video, because for Linux operating system users, you need to install the Docker engine and Docker Compose on your Linux platform or distribution, and then have this n8n Docker installation run for you. So we will cover that in a dedicated video on my YouTube channel. So subscribe to it and stay tuned to it. Now coming back over here, I'm going to click on this install Docker Desktop. It is going to take us to the page. So here we are at the official documentation page of Docker, and you can see that if you are using it for commercial use, then for larger enterprises you need to have the paid subscription, and by larger enterprises they mean more than 250 employees or more than 10 million USD in annual revenue. So I'm not even close to these. Hence I'm going to use it for free version, and I'm going to click on this Docker Desktop for Mac. I'm going to click on it. It is going to take me to another page. It is asking me whether I need to use the Apple Silicon version of it or the Intel chip. I have a MacBook with the Apple Silicon, so I'll just use that. So you can see that it is going to take about 2 or 3 minutes to download on my machine. Alright, so the download is complete. I'm going to head over to my downloads folder where it has downloaded. So you can see docker.dmg over here. I'm going to double click on it and it should start the installation process. So it's saying just I need to drag it onto my applications. So I just dragged it over here and it has started copying. It's about 10 seconds. Alright, so I have the Docker Desktop installed on my MacBook. So I can go to my applications or just type in Docker. So you can see that it has been installed. I clicked on it, it should open up. But what we are going to do is we are going to go back onto the terminal. It's right now verifying Docker image. So once the Docker Desktop has opened up, you can click on use recommended settings, requires password. I'll just click on finish. It is asking me for the password. I'm going to put in my password over here and it should work. Oops, again I forgot. Wow. Try again. All right, so this is up and running. I'm going to again click on it and allow. So you can see that it is asking me for some personal email or work email. I'm just going to skip it. Again, I'm skipping the survey as well. So as you can see, Docker desktop is up and running on my local machine. So what we are going to do is we are going to head back into the n8n documentation. So we are back on the n8n documentation page. And as you can see, now we have the installed version of it. What we are going to do is we are going to follow and open up the terminal. And first of all, create a volume called n8n data. So again, I'm going to open up my terminal. It's opened, it's clear. So I'm going to click on this. And it has successfully created something called n8n data over here. Maybe I think I should look at this. And if I come over here and you can see in my volumes in my Docker desktop, I can see n8n data up and running. So the volume is created. This is where we are going to put the installation. So again, I'm going to go back. So now I'm going to copy this command, which is the second command, and going back to my terminal and paste it over here. So you can see that over here it said unable to find the local image. So now it is fetching the image, downloading it. So we'll wait for the process to complete, and by the end of it, our n8n version should be up and running. All right, so you can see that the installation has finished. It has got the latest copy or the latest stable version of n8n and installed as a Docker container over here. You can press O to open up the browser, or basically you can go onto this URL, which is localhost. It's a similar URL that we had earlier as well. So you can click on this. So you can see again, we are asked to set up the owner account. In the previous video, when I installed locally, it asked me the entire step or this process. However, it is asking us again because now this container is an isolated copy on my machine, and hence it is being treated as a new installation, even though it is on the same machine where npm installation is also there. But because this is into a container, which is an isolated piece on my machine, hence it is treating it as a fresh n8n installation. So we'll quickly fill up this form again. This time I'll give my some other email address, same name I can use. All right, if I want to receive some of the updates of security on product, I can click on this checkbox and start receiving updates on the email ID that I have given. So I'm click on next. I just opted out. Again, the survey is over here, similar to the one that we saw on local installation as well as the cloud version. What best describes your company? Probably like e-commerce. Which role best describes you? I'm the business owner. Who will your automation mainly be for? Mainly myself. How big is your company? Less than 20 employees. How did you hear about us? Again, Google. So I'll just click on this, get started. And it is asking me again that if I want to enable the paid features, which is workflow history, advanced debugging, execution search and tagging, folders, then I should enter the email address on which I need to receive the license key, and we have already seen this. So now the license key will be on the way on the email address that I have provided, and you can see now that the n8n Docker installation is also up and running on our local machine. And now that n8n has been installed as a Docker container, let's look at the Docker desktop and see what has been updated over there. You can see this is my Docker desktop, and we were at the volume section where we first created in the previous step n8n_data volume. But if I look at the containers now, you can see there is one container up and running right now, and it is telling me that the CPU percentage usage is this much and the memory usage is this much. And you can see that it is available at localhost port 5678. If I click on it, it will open the local containerized instance of n8n. And you can see it is up and running right now. I can click on this button to stop the container so that the container is no longer running, and my local instance of n8n, which is containerized, Dockerized, is not available anymore. So now we have covered all three ways that you can set up n8n on your local machine, self-hosted, or you can use the cloud version of it, how to register as a user for a free trial. And we have learned about all the differences that exist among all these three types of installation. The fourth one, which was n8n desktop version, we talked about that it is outdated, it is no longer being maintained in the GitHub repository, so you don't need to use that. Use one of these options to set up up your n8n and get going with the automations. Now in the next part of this lesson, we are ready to deep dive into the interface, and I'm going to explain each and every element that you see on this interface of n8n. Through the remaining of this course, I'm going to use my own paid version of n8n Cloud. The lessons that are going to follow up, whatever screen share I am going to do, whatever workflows I am going to build, all those will be built in the cloud version of my workspace. But feel free to use any of these installations, either your free trial or feel free to install it on your local machine as a Docker installation or as a standalone npm based installation.